Hari Om. A small analysis on how the Bhagavad Gita is a pot of divine knowledge. Actually, the Bhagavad Gita is nothing but yoga. It is the Krishna Yoga. The Krishna Yoga is again surrendering everything. But how do we get this highest concept of surrendering when we see everything with our physical eyes and think with the senses, sense organs? So here actually the physical knowledge, that means the material knowledge, is totally different from the physical knowledge. So, the physical knowledge is again different from the spiritual knowledge actually. So the material knowledge is what we can see, we can touch it, the material, because matter from material comes out of matter only, so we touch it. And physical is that is what we use that material in our life for either comforts or luxuries or whatever it is for our good living. So, but spiritual knowledge is not like that because it cannot be seen, it is only to be experienced. The other knowledge they can be seen and the mind can think. But here, this spiritual knowledge is not only of the mind, it is totally different. Because when we utter the word spiritual itself, it means it is related to God. And what is God? God is not an object. Had God been an object, we could have spent money and got him. But it is not that. So it is something for us to know, for us to understand, for us to realize, for us to actualize. Self realization brings about self actualization, actually. And here, when we say that the Bhagavad Gita is a divine knowledge, then how do we get the knowledge? Any knowledge, it has got three steps. First one is the Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasanam, concentration. So, Shravanam means we hear. When we concentrate on what we hear, it goes into our mind. And when we recite it, Manana means to recite again and again, recall, remember, reproduce. So that is called Mananam. And this Nididhyasanam is to get the inner vision. So how do we get the vision? It's only when we try to explore what we understand. We try to interpret it. We try to understand the meaning in depth. Only then we can get the better vision. When something is seen, when something is felt, when something is known for touch and smell or sight, it will be very easy. But this divine knowledge is not that thing with which we can touch or smell or see or taste. We only hear. We read the great people's, that means great seers who have actually experienced and wrote a number of books, how they got the realization, how they got this, they could attain the spiritual knowledge. So actually, we have to correlate. What we read, what we understand, and what we actually try to inculcate. But without understanding, without correlating, even though we try to inculcate, is of no use. We have to know the what, the why, the where, the when. Because when we sit in a place where Swamiji is giving a lecture, then he says that we must not hurt any living being, because the same God exists in all the living beings. And just as if somebody hurts us, we get hurt, so also the living being, other living beings, organisms. And we happen to see a scorpion or a snake. If we just simply say, "Oh, we must not hurt this scorpion because it's a living being. We must not hurt this snake because it's a living being." And Swamiji he told like this, so I must not hurt anything. Then there'll be no time left because it will come and hurt us. So here this is interpretation only. That is a correlation. What he told, when he told, at what are the situations when we have to adopt certain things, what we learn. So this is very important. This we get only by correlating the ideas, the concepts what we understand, the concepts what we hear, and the experience of the great seers. All these, if we bring under one roof and try to correlate them and bring about the actual facts from them, then we can know how the knowledge will be envisioned, and it will take us to a higher levels. Otherwise, our knowledge will be very much confined. So, actually, knowledge may be confined, but wisdom is not confined. Because, like, suppose you will take an Newton who sits under an apple tree and an apple falls on his head. So he was able to see the tree. He could feel the apple fall on his head. But if he simply takes it as knowledge, because it's a apple tree and there are fruits on the tree, the apple fell down, and it is for me. I can take it and eat. But here he didn't do like that. So he correlated. When the apple that was hung onto the tree, why it could fall down? Why can't it go up? So he tried to explore, he tried to interpret so many other ideas. And then he came to the conclusion that these are all laws of motion. So, Newton's laws of motion. So, here in the same way, when we read any scriptures, say Bhagavad Gita is a very great scripture, that is actually, Bhagavad Gita is not a theoretical book. It is not something to be by hearted. It is something to be read, to be digested, to be dived into that spiritual knowledge. To know ultimately that surrendering at his lotus feet, the karmas, all the actions what we do, just taking at his refuge, he gives us the salvation. And how can we surrender a certain thing when there is no sublimity in us? When there is no nobility in us? It is not that easy. Because even for a very small work also, if we do anything, we feel that I did because of me. Because of me, this happened. Had I not been there, this would not have happened. So we always feel that we are the cause and the effect. When this I sense resides in us, so long as the I sense resides in us, we never have a thought that it is He that is making us do the works. And let Him give the fruits. So we are not bothered. We must be bothered only about the karma what we do. Whether we are doing the karma perfectly or no. The perfection of the karma. Just put the heart and mind and the soul on a work. And when we put the heart and soul on a work, definitely we get the success. And because the soul is nothing but God again, He makes us do. When we don't bother about time, when we don't bother about any other thing, then the only thing what is left is we have to do the work. And we do it so perfectly because we are responsible for everything. So, here, if we happen to tell a very small story, once there was a carpenter, and his owner, he used to look after him very well, and this went on for a very long time. But one day the carpenter, he wanted to get retired. So he went and told his master that as he became old, he was 60, and he wanted to retire, he wanted to spend his remaining life very happily. So he wanted to take leave from the owner. The owner, he was a very kind man. So he told, okay, last and final work you do for me, you build a house for me with all good furniture in that. And because you are the mason also, so you build the house. That the last one you do. So the carpenter, actually, he was very good. Good workmanship he had. But here, at that moment, what he felt is, why, even though when I wanted to leave this master and go, he's still asking me to do something. So he just made it somehow. And finally, he told the master that his work was over. The owner, he came, examined the house, and he gave the keys to the carpenter, saying that house was for him, gifted for him, because of his services rendered to the owner. And the owner, he was such a nice man that he wanted the carpenter to live happily in the house, not in a rented house, but in his own house. Now what happened? Here the carpenter, he started lamenting. So he was thinking, Harire, I didn't know this before. If had I known before, I would have done in a very beautiful way. I would have constructed the house that it would be the best among the previous constructions. But now I did a mistake. I just made it somehow or the other because I just wanted to relieve from this work. So that is karma. So we cannot escape. So here our life itself is a beautiful project. And that's what here in the Bhagavad Gita it is told by the Lord Himself. That when you feel that the life is a project, you carve it, you build it in a most beautiful way. So that your life itself, when you see, you feel so happy. Because life is not an object. We gather so many objects, but life is a journey. So at every stage, we must enjoy the beauty of the life. So if we don't build our life properly, if we don't have this yoga is nothing but discipline. So karma yoga says that you do the karma and you don't think about the results. You surrender everything to me. And the karma while doing, you think that you're doing as if you're going to live for a long time and you're going to enjoy the fruits. Then you will do it very perfectly. So here, what he wanted to tell is that our minds are not mechanical workshops. So when how many we have to analyze when we do this mananam or whatever it is. So here we have to examine, we have to reason, we have to measure, we have to discriminate, we have to know, we have to analyze, we have to interpret, then we have to contemplate, we have to correlate. So all these are there. Unless all these steps are taken into consideration with respect to knowledge, only then can we achieve the success. Only then we will understand that we are nothing in this vast universe, and we are a part of that whole. So when we say that he is perfect, we are also perfect, and it's a continual approach to his perfection also. So only then we can make it. Otherwise, we cannot make it. So gaining knowledge is one aspect, one side of the coin, and understanding the knowledge and transforming into a wisdom with a inner vision, that counts more. That has more effect on our lives. So that's what this it's told in the Bhagavad Gita. That since it is a divine knowledge, we must go step by step. Because divinity is not something which we can get in the market. It is to be blossomed. It is to be cherished. It is to be enjoyed. It is to be felt. The ecstatic and the blissful situations in our life. Only then we can understand the spirituality. Otherwise, we cannot understand. So when we don't surrender anything at His feet, that means we are attached to something. Every attachment has an impact on us. But in attachment, if we detach ourselves, then we feel very light because there is nothing for us to bear the burden. There is nothing for us to carry. Once we detach from that and surrender at His feet, then what is there for us to carry? We are very light and we need not bother about anything. We need not bother about the security. We need not have any bodyguards. So here this understanding, realization and actualization are a part and parcel of the spiritual knowledge. And for this, yoga only is the best path. And yoga is nothing but discipline. Yoga is discipline. Or chanting the name of the Holy Lord. Krishna Yoga. So if we chant the name of the Holy Lord, automatically everything will become pious. So our thoughts will become pious, tongue will become pious, words will become pious. We become so gentle, we become so noble, we become so subtle. And automatically we'll be moving to the other levels from the material, from the gross to the higher levels to reach Him or to know Him. Then a time will come that we and He are, there is no separation between Him and us. So we are not a separate entity from Him. So we have come from Him and we are of His entity only. So this is what is required. So here this is what the Lord of Lords Jagadguru he told in this Bhagavad Gita. That's why it is called the pot of divine knowledge. It is the way that is told how a person must live, how a person must lead his life. So how a person must lead a life of dharma. So that's what it's doing. So Hari Om.